Hi, welcome to March. Not sure about you, but 2022 time is moving, it's marching on. I'm Taryn Sado, and it's a pleasure to bring you this HeartWay message for March 2022. And for those of you, or if you have never watched this before, 2022 is the year of the HeartWay, and there has been a pathway that I channeled at the beginning of the year. And it's quite useful as we go into March to just kind of look back and see what January and February have offered us. So the message for January was be brave. It was about finding a part of yourself that was willing to transform, to change, to move into your heart space and to live your life from your heart space. And if there's if it's not clear yet, it is probably the biggest thing we need to start learning to live by is from our hearts, where there's unity and harmony and compassion and peace and love, or the hope that there's unity and love and compassion. So Be Brave in January really introduced and invited us to explore what no longer is serving. What do you need to shift and change? And that led us into February. And February was a lot about healing some of the heartbreaks and forgiving ourselves. And so the card for February was feel it, deal with it, and heal it. And that now leads us into this March energy. So we sit here in March and we start to gather ourselves, I think, is the best energetic word that I can come up with right now. March is a 9-month in terms of universal numerology. 9 is a place of releasing. So often we think of things must end. What's more important is what needs to be released so that we can create space for something new. There's 9 energy is saying, what is now completed? What have we brought to full circle? And we need to release it. We need to say that is enough. And that is a core message for March 2022. It's enough. What have we had enough of? We have some really, really powerful dates in March. The first date that's worth paying attention to is tomorrow, where we have a new moon energy, and it's a high frequency day. It's called an 11-2 day. And so tomorrow is a great time to actually sit and meditate on what it is you have had enough of, what it is that now is clear is no longer serving you at all. And then we have full moon on the 18th, which is a 9-day. So we've got a 9-month, a 9-day, and full moon on the 18th. So that day is a great day for actually doing some form of ritual or ceremony that releases you from past karmic contracts that no longer serve you. So the message in the card for March is probably the thing I work with clients the most around at the moment. And that is assert your boundaries. So if we hold that there, you can see assert your boundaries. And we can see the Merkaba at the top there. This comes from the suit in the deck of cards that is about there is only love. And so noticing that there is this relationship between love and boundaries, self-love and love of others. I'm a great fan of the quote by Prentice Hemphill. I'm going to read it to you. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. So when we walk around without boundaries because we're trying to please people or take care of people or fix people or be kind or be nice or be loving, it is actually an act of it's the act of self, what's the word, harm in a way. It is not about loving yourself enough to say what is enough. And this obviously happens in relationships. It happens in many, many, many facets of our lives. If we have a look at this card, just to start bringing you into some sort of awareness around it, you will see the person standing there is at a doorway, like a portal. And that's what boundaries are. They work very much with our throat chakra. The voice that we share with the world Is it aligned with our internal voice? What we say sets the tone of what is okay and what is not okay in our world. And more importantly, how we speak is really an important part of it. So we need to understand this relationship between the throat chakra, the portal, that is, our creative tool. I was recently reflecting on the word abracadabra. So the meaning of it means we create as we speak. Abracadabra, we create as we speak. And so as we're speaking, we are setting boundaries or not. And so we can start to see that this portal is really important because it's our place of creation. It's the place where we manifest from, is that which we speak comes into being. Now, when we start to understand how we speak, we can see this card says assert, not aggressively impose. And so we need to start to understand that I can say yes and I can say no in a way that is loving, in a way that is supportive of the fact that that may not be what the other person wants to hear, but is still what I need to say. We don't need to get aggressive to make our point heard. One of the truths around boundaries is it is not about imposing rules on other people. It is more about setting instructions of what I will do. So instructions to myself is what boundaries are about. Rules that we impose on others has got to do a lot more with trying to be in control of other people so that we feel okay. When we invest a lot of our energy trying to control other people so that we feel okay, we kind of miss the point that actually we're the master of our own destiny. And so what do I want to do? How am I co-authoring? How am I colluding with what is going on here? So allowing ourselves permission to notice what serves me, what doesn't, what is good for me, what isn't, and aligning ourselves with our true yeses and nos in the world so that we can let others know, but we can let them know with love, and we can have conversations, not attacks. Yeah. So the other thing that we can start to see is this person has their hand on their heart. And when we start to understand that there's a heart-centered message that's coming from me, if I can connect my voice to my heart, I will always be able to say what is important for me. Sadly, most of us have a blockage with that, and we've connected our throat to our heads. So we say what we think. We say what we think we should say, or we say what we think somebody else wants us to say, or we say what we think is the right thing to say, or we say what we should be saying. Yeah. As children, we spoke from the heart, and often we got into trouble for that. And so we didn't learn to discern how to use our voice in a useful way. We just switched off the connection to our hearts. And so what happens for many of us when it comes to boundary setting is we have a disconnect happening between our internal voice and our external voice. So boundaries is very much a journey of aligning my internal voice with my external voice. What that means, and you can think about it for yourself, how often has every fiber of your being said, no, I don't want to do that? Yet the words that come out of our mouth go, yes, no problem. And that self-betrayal, where we have dismissed the part of ourselves that's asking for something, saying there's something that needs to be considered, there's something that needs to be cared for. When we override that, we start to mistrust ourselves. And so boundaries have a relationship with trust, because how can I trust myself to be good to myself? Now, if I have an internal no, and it feels dangerous to share that, there may be needs to protect yourself in certain ways. But we've developed habits around that, and we've developed mechanisms around that. which may be aggressive and passive aggressive mechanisms. It could be the silent treatment. I'm just not going to talk to you. It could be fighting with somebody. It could be putting up rigid walls. Rigid walls are not boundaries. They're walls. You're on the other side. It's a very lonely place. Whereas boundaries would be, I'm not feeling comfortable saying yes to this. I'm feeling no. Now, the challenge with our yeses and nos in the world is we live in a society that overrides our nos and our yeses quite a lot. When somebody says no to us, we often try and convince them. This happens a lot in relationships. Do you want to go to dinner? No, I don't feel like it. Oh, come on, it will be fun. You know, if you love me, you would go. You never take me out. This manipulation that happens where we haven't considered what the no is about. So when somebody is brave enough to tell us no, the question is, can you hear a no and honor it? You're more than welcome to ask, tell me more, what's going on for you? And that's a simple example. We haven't even got to the world of work, you know. I do a lot of work in corporate spaces, and the question around culture is, how tolerant are we of people saying no? Are people allowed to tell their bosses no without getting into trouble? Now, again, we need to take responsibility for how we say no, because if it's aggressive, people are fighting with you, not because you say no, but because of the aggression with which you say it. But more importantly, if I can't ever say no to you, how can you trust me? Because everything's a yes. If you always say yes, yeah, let's try and say it this way, it's better. If you never say no, your yes is meaningless. So this is a big topic when we start to understand boundaries on a physical level, your time, your body, on an emotional level, what you share, what you take on board from other people. Many empaths cross boundaries by taking on responsibility for other people's emotions. On a mental level, letting people have a private space, an internal dialogue, a thoughtful place without having to know everything about what they're thinking, and also honoring your belief system, your wounds. And then a spiritual boundaries, which is about your sense of faith and allowing that to be useful for you and not imposing that on others. Boundaries is a really, really beautiful topic. And the guidance that comes forward around this month is a great time to really, really connect with awareness around how often you betray yourself by saying no when you mean yes, and saying yes when you mean no. That alignment brings us back into flow. That alignment aligns with the Be Brave. Those of you that were part of the HeartWay session for Be Brave, if you were there, we spoke about the arrow, about bringing things into alignment, which is what bravery is about. And so this month, as we start to get to what have I had enough of, then how do I start to align my external voice with my internal voice in a way that promotes conversation, not combat? This is a new skill for many people. Many of us have to learn how to navigate that world in a way that is good and kind for ourselves and others. If you'd like to learn more, I'll be sharing some tools in the HeartWay session on the 8th of March. It's an evening session. If you can't make it live, you're welcome to get the recording. We will spend 2 hours going through some tools around aligning this internal yes and internal no with our external yeses and no. And obviously there's a continuum around that. Now in this 9 month where we're looking at I've had enough, and so what are my boundaries? How do I get true to myself and stop betraying myself? How do I start to create the world I want by using my voice as a way to navigate the world? That starts to lead us into the energy for April. And April being a 1 month, a month of rebirth, the card that is coming up for April is Raise Your Vibration. And so we can see that this month of contemplation around aligning your experience in the external world with the internal world starts to create a portal again, a place for us to have that conversation. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. Boundaries are a loving act. Yeah. We often say children thrive with boundaries, but not with rules. And that is a distinction that we need to learn. I'm wishing you so much love for this month of contemplation, of releasing and aligning. And if you'd like to join on the 8th of March, you're welcome to do so. The link is down below. The recordings for January and February are also available for purchase if you feel you would like to go back and explore those. And if you have the HeartWay journal, really, really drop deeply into the mandalas. These are the 2 mandalas in the mandala. And the second mandala that you can work with. So is this one. So really allow yourself to drop into those with this awareness of what have I had enough of and how do I become more aligned and not betray myself anymore. Sending lots of love. Namaste.